Grant Cardone 100% changed the trajectory of my career and my life. I'm gonna go over with you in this video exactly how he helped me personally. I can imagine that you can apply these same principles to your life. So look, as a new insurance agent, I was where everyone else is. I was broke, I was stressed out, I was anxious, but you know what? I had a fire inside me. I was willing to do whatever it took to become successful in this industry and in this business. There are a few different ways that Grant impacted my life. There's sales, and there's marketing, and then there's business, and then there's networking. So there are multiple different ways. I'm going to cover each of these topics with you guys. So let's get right into it. The first way that Grant Cardone actually was able to impact my life was with mindset. I started watching some of his videos. I purchased his Cardone University course when I first got into insurance a few years ago. This was the first time in my life that I gave myself permission to be obsessed with things. I always felt I was kind of weird, like in the sense where I would get mega obsessed with stuff, and people kind of hold it against me and criticize me for it. And Grant Cardone was the first person to be like, no, it's okay to be obsessed. If you're not obsessed, you're never going to be great at something. And I was so obsessed with being successful, and I thought it was weird. I couldn't relate. I couldn't talk to other people about how I wanted to have a lot of money, how I wanted to be super successful. Came from a pretty middle-class town and kind of family too. Like, no one likes talking about money in my family. It's like taboo. But I love money, and I love success, and I love results, and I love production, and that's the only thing that, like, money can solve 99% of the problems that we have in our lives. So I always wanted to make a lot of money, and I was obsessed with that. And Cardone gave me permission to be obsessed with that in his course and reading his books, and gave me permission to be obsessed with being the best at everything. And I had people my whole life tell me you don't have to be the best. So man, I'm telling you, first off, my mindset changed by following and listening to Grant Cardone in this business, because I set out like, I'm going to be the best in final expense telesales in the entire country. And I'm obsessed with that. And even when I told it to some other people in the business, they were like, oh, yeah, I thought that once too. I'm like, oh, you gave up. One thing that I highly recommend that everybody here get involved with if you're in insurance are the networking events that Cardone has. Now, I don't sell Cardone's products. I don't make money off them. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I am an example of what those events can do. So I highly recommend you get in the room, you get plugged into any of those events. And if you can't afford them, then put it on a credit card. That's what I did when I first met. I put $1,500 on a credit card 3 years ago for a sales course from him and to go to an event in Miami. And from that $1,500 investment, I've been able to generate over $1 million in revenue in 3 years in my business. Like, it's pretty incredible, right? So that's a ridiculous rate of return. And he taught me that personal investment and personal development is the number one thing that you have to do before you invest in anything else. You have to get good at what you want to be good at. When I started my agency in telesales, I was an independent agent. I was just selling, running ads on Facebook and stuff and door knocking. And I went to one of his events and I paid some extra money to sit down at a VIP lunch with him. And it was me and like 100 other people or whatever, and they went around the room and people got a chance to ask Grant questions. So I don't think I was able to ask him a question the first day, but the second day I said, look man, I want to totally blow up. I want to have the biggest final expense telesales agency in the country. I know I can do it. I have the drive, I can sell, and I can market. What do? I don't have any money. And he's like, well, you got credit cards? And I was like, yeah, I do have credit cards. So he's like, max them out. And I was like, all right. So I went back, and literally that same week, I spent a ton of money, and I invested in opening up an office and investing in recruiting agents and growing my agency and growing my team. That was the best decision I ever made. It was tough. The first year was nuts. I literally put like 100 grand on credit cards. I had like $60,000 in chargebacks. I was like insanely in debt. But my second year, I was able to pay it all off and then make that much back in savings. At GrowthCon, one of Cardone's event, I met James Whitley. He's my upline now. And James totally changed my life. Him and Rory and Grant and everybody at SLS, like they're where I am now, Senior Life Services, the IMO that I'm with, they joined my agency with. They're awesome. And James is like, I met him at a Cardone event. If I never went to those events, I never would have met him. I never would have changed my life. Every time I go to one of those events, my life changed. It's cool because you go to those events and like there's a business boot camp I like to go to. They talk about sales, marketing, and business and money. And when I first started, I'm like, I have to learn how to sell. And then I kind of wanted to learn about the business, and now I'm all about marketing and promoting. And when I was at one of those boot camps, I met a guy named Chris. And Chris told me about this YouTube course I'm taking, which is why I'm talking to you here right now, because I know how to make content and promote to other people now and get my name out there. So like all of these things have changed my life and put my life in a trajectory towards success. And there's some other personal development things I do that I learned through Grant Cardone that have completely transformed the way that I view other humans and the way that we think and behave. Get in the room. Get involved in those networking events. Go to GrowthCon. Go to his boot camps. They're worth it. Yes, it's expensive, but it's not expensive. Like, what if I said I don't want to spend $1,500 3 years ago? I'd still be broke. Like, that changed my life. So now I'm like, okay, how much money am I gonna lose if I don't go to this event? Do you see the difference? It's not how much does it cost. It's how much am I getting out of it? Next thing is sales advice. So obviously, everybody knows Grant Cardone for sales. One way one thing I applied through Grant Cardone is learning how to handle clients in the beginning of a sales presentation. This helped me so much. So handling the objections that you get in the greeting. I learned this through Cardone University. They're called reactionary defense responses. It's like if someone says, I'm not interested, I'm just looking, I just need a quote, I already have it, yada, yada, yada. So it's how do you overcome that stuff in the greeting? And I learned that stuff from Grant. I have videos on it too, and it works very, very well. And I can train all you guys on it. And you can learn how to overcome that stuff when people give you that pushback and those objections. I highly recommend that you check out my content on that because that's all Grant stuff. You know, I'm just regurgitating things that I learned from other people. So hopefully you guys don't have to spend all the money and take the chances that I did and take the risks I did to become successful. So you can find value in this content. This stuff that I talk about is really going to make you a lot of money, and it made me a lot of money. So I hope you can apply it to do the same. Next, in the fact-finding part of my script, I learned how to ask the right questions. I learned how to dig and find the client's why, their dominant buying motive. Why do they want to buy today? I learned how to ask questions about their existing insurance coverage, like if someone can make a decision for themselves, right? If someone already has a policy, oh, did you get that one by yourself? Yeah. Cool, they can probably make insurance decisions by themselves then. Why now? Why do you want to do this now? Why is this important to you today? Right? If something happened to you tomorrow, what would beneficiary do without this policy? You're on a fixed income, right? Yeah, how can you justify spending some of that money every month on a life insurance plan? Right? Hard questions, and then they'll be like, oh, well, it would do this, this, and this. Also in the presentation, Cardone taught me the difference between features, advantages, and benefits. So a feature is what something is, an advantage is what it has over the competition, and a benefit is what it does. So like for instance, a feature of a life insurance policy is that it's a whole life policy. That's a feature. Okay, what it does, the benefit is that the payment's never gonna change. It's permanent. The client never has to apply for insurance again. That's like the benefit, how it affects the client. That's the picture that's painted in their head. And then the advantage is that, hey, plenty of other companies out there market term policies, and they don't really tell you that it's a term. They just make you think you're getting a really good deal. He taught me that about how to present products that build value, that exceeds the price that we're asking for. And then he also taught me how to be relentless in the close when I'm going in for a close. So Cardone's like, you want to get like 10 no's. Follow-up too. He taught me to be relentless in my follow-up game. Extremely creative follow-up. I got a lot of follow-up sales following the stuff from Cardone. And then his rebuttals as well. I have a rebuttals website that I built. You can just click on a button and go through and read the rebuttals that are on that website. They're from Cardone. A lot of them are from Cardone's course, and they work. They work. You just got to apply it. So like just about every part of my sales process, I've implemented things from Grant Cardone to improve it, and I teach it to all my agents, and they're very successful with it. And we're all good. When we apply these things that we learn from people who know more than us, it helps us move ahead faster. So if there's a few events I recommend to go to, if you're like, hey, how do I get involved in this network? Because there are millions of people that know who he is. I would go to his business boot camps. You can check what those are on his website, I'd imagine. It's just like a seminar, and a bunch of business owners go there. It's really cool. There's also 10X GrowthCon that happens once a year. He has sales boot camps at his office. He has marketing boot camps at his office. So go and get involved. And the thing is, I learn a lot from those, but I have gained more from the people I've talked to at those events. So when you go, you got to network, because there's some heavy hitters that go there, and there's some extremely educated, motivated people. You want those people in your inner circle. Gets me fired up. You want to be friends with someone that's going to drop $5,000 to go to a personal development conference, to fly to Miami from God knows where to learn and get better. Like, why wouldn't you want to be around someone like that? Like, that's like, boom, that person's a hitter, right? Like, you want that person in your life. So network with these people, become friends with these people. Like, I'm telling you, Cardone's network has changed my life. Invest in yourself, invest in training, become obsessed with your goals, always try to get better, never give up, put in ridiculous amounts of work and activity. That's the only way to succeed. And I knew that my whole life. But I was told, like, take it easy, be safe, chill out, relax, slow down. That is complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. You gotta be obsessed. You have to be like freakishly maniac level obsessed with your goals. And if you're not, I promise, the other person is. And you gotta eliminate all excuses. Kids, family, whatever it may be. And that's a sacrifice you may have to make. But you can still be a rock star parent and rock star husband or wife or spouse and be obsessed with your goals. You just got to make sure that when you're fully present for those moments, right? Cardone, he wakes up at like 4:30 to go like hang out with his kids, right? So because he's still like rock star dad, so he taught me that like I can partition all these things in my life and still do very, very well and be good at every single one of them. I just have to manage my time properly. So apply some of these things I talked to you about. Hope it can help you. Give yourself permission to be obsessed. Grant gave me permission to be obsessed. Grant gave me permission to be a maniac and a freak and a monster. And that's what I am. And I feel okay with it. And when I'm around people in his networks, I can communicate at that level and I don't feel weird. I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm with family, right? I'm like, it's like we're on that wavelength. Like the energy is just nuts. So get involved. If you relate to any of the things I'm talking about here, get involved in those networks. They'll change your life. They changed my life. And yeah, thanks, Grant.